It is late Tuesday, September 11th, and Tropical Storm Leslie has already made landfall across the Atlantic provinces of Canada, and it is now dissipating, and Michael has also dissipated within the past 6 hours. So that leaves us with nothing more than just Tropical Depression number 14, which was newly classified by the National Hurricane Center earlier today. It currently has maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. It's moving toward the northwest at 12 miles per hour. It is forecast to become a tropical storm and even the next hurricane of the 2012 season, but a bend more toward the north is anticipated with no threat to land. This forecast is being supported by all of the available track guidance with a turn more toward the north and northeast. And in addition to the Tropical Model Suite members, the GFS ensembles are also advertising a track to the northeast and away from Bermuda. The intensity models are also in agreement with the idea that this depression will become a hurricane within the next 4 to 5 days. The visible and infrared satellite imagery shows that much of the tropics close to the United States are relatively quiet, with only some remnant convective activity associated with a stalled frontal boundary, but nothing is well organized at this time, and mid to upper level conditions do not appear to be overly favorable. But Tropical Depression 14 is steadily becoming better defined on both the visible and the enhanced infrared, and that is despite having some southwest vertical wind shear out ahead of this system, and you can see that in response to a lot of troughing out across the central and western United States, and that's why we are very confident that TD14 is no threat to land. We will have a closer look at the dynamical models in just a moment, but as we venture very quickly into the eastern Pacific, there is a new tropical disturbance to the south of Mexico with a 90% chance of development over the next 48 hours, and the latest visible satellite imagery reveals that this disturbance is steadily becoming better defined, and we can see more convection developing near the surface circulation on the infrared, and conditions appear to be favorable for very slow development as the system continues to move toward the west-northwest. Yesterday, we were slightly concerned about this system possibly moving a little bit more toward the north, near the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, but the models have come into better alignment with a more westerly track into the open waters of the Pacific. The latest 18Z run of the GFS model shows Tropical Depression 14 being caught up by a lot of troughing, so it is no threat to land, and it's keeping the remainder of the Atlantic Basin quiet throughout the next 7 days. Also, anything that develops from the disturbance that we just talked about south of Mexico is likely to continue moving west-northwest away from the Baja Peninsula. The 12Z run of the CMC model is in near perfect agreement with the GFS. As you can see, TD14 also being swept up by the troughing, as we just saw by the prior model, while the rest of the deep tropics of the Atlantic remain quiet, and the Mexican disturbance continues moving westward away from land. Last but not least, in terms of dynamical model guidance, the European model is showing very quiet conditions across the deep tropics for the next 5 to 6 days, with TD14 becoming a hurricane, but staying well to the north and away from the Caribbean. Also, the Madden-Julian oscillation is forecast to remain relatively weak, so we are not going to see much in the way of enhancement from this oscillation for the next 5 to 10 days. So that's all we have for this tropical weather update on this late Tuesday. Stay tuned to the Hurricane Tracker app and 28storms.com for the remainder of the season for more updates.